Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports. As always, my name is Caleb Deloach, and I can finally and sadly report to you that the high school football season here in southeast Missouri, in our county specifically, has come to a close because the Jackson Indians have lost to Lee's Summit High School 35-28 this past Saturday up there in Kansas City on the road. I mean, shout out to everybody that made the trip, first and foremost. All the fans out there. I was in the press box, which didn't have heat, but it also didn't have wind. So a couple of times I had to walk out of the press box, whatever, and go grab something. I just was amazed. All you guys survived out there. Jackson fans showed up. They made the long drive across the state. I know there's a ton of snow in St. Louis and maybe central Missouri. Everybody a lot of people to drive through to get there, and so I commend all y'all. Y'all are wild. I don't know if I wasn't on doing the radio, I don't know if I would have been brave enough to make that drive and stand out there for 3 hours, 45-mile-an-hour winds, 35 degrees. Felt like 17 or something. It was tough, and yeah, the Indians unfortunately came out on the short end of that one. 35-28, ending their season at 12-1. First semifinal appearance since 2021, so shout out to them. Shout out to Coach Ryan Nesbitt. Years 3, all 3 years in Class 6, got his team over the hump of the state quarterfinal and into the semifinals, but kind of just ran into a buzzsaw, man. Lee Summit playing unbelievable football, and we're just so tough to stop, right? I mean, we'll take a look at the raw numbers for just the Indians. Drew Parsons, good game, 11 of 18, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 17 carries, 68 more yards there in the score. A lot of that damage obviously done in the first half. I think we had him in the press box, I believe, like only 2 of 6 in the second half when the wind really started going. Jory Toma was the recipient of a lot of those passes, 6 catches, 139 yards, 2 scores, both big, long touchdown passes. Jalen Hampton, 20 carries, 99 yards, a touchdown. He also had 2 receptions for 41 yards. And, yeah, I came into it. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd seen a little bit of tape on Lee's Summit and the way they played. And I just didn't know how I was going to go against Jackson until I kind of saw it up close and personal. And I can tell you, even in the pregame, it's like, okay, they have good size. I knew the Hatfield kids were super athletic and everything like that. Carson Fine, a phenomenal athlete. I believe he's going to Northwest Missouri State, one of the very best Division II programs in America. And so I knew they had dudes. I knew that they were super athletic, super talented. But that first drive of the football game, Lee Summit, Jackson wins the coin toss. They defer to the second half. Lee Summit gets it. And, they just methodically just ran it through Jackson's face, right? 7-minute drive. They converted 2 fourth downs on the drive and punched it in. It's a 9-yard touchdown run, I believe, by Carson Fine to get the scoring started. And, whenever they were able to control the ball like that, just run it right down the field, not even consider throwing a forward pass, I knew this was going to be an issue, right? I haven't seen Jackson get bullied like that very much in a long time. Since 2018. So Lee Summit gets to go in the list of teams that didn't need the forward pass to beat Jackson, right? Vianney back with Kyron Williams in the NFL, Webb City back in 21, and then this Lee Summit team, man. There's very rare occasions as Jackson under Coach Eckley or Coach Nesbitt just kind of get run on like that. And as soon as Lee Summit was able to do that, I knew we were in for a long, physical, tough football game. But, you got to give it to the Indians offense. They stood on the sidelines in the cold for a very long time, but Drew Parsons led a good drive immediately. They got down the field. He scored a rushing touchdown, made it 7-7. And then, give it back to Lee Summit. Lee Summit's forced to punt. And the Indians immediately hit a long pass to Jory Toma. He takes it in, 66 yards. They missed the extra point, go up 13-7. But, I thought maybe, after that, I was like, well, maybe that first drive was an anomaly. I don't know. Like I said, you don't see teams just bully you that often, but They got right back to it. They just kept it on the ground, 4 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, and eventually scored a 17-yard touchdown run. Great vision by Preston Hatfield, put them up 14-13. And then once again, Jackson turns around, gets a nice drive, hits Jory Toma for a long score, made it 21-14. And then we slowed down a minute there, right? Lee Summit got it. They tried to throw the ball at the end of the first half to get downfield quickly. I mean, they could have just kept it on the ground, if we're being honest. But they tried to put it in the air. They didn't go anywhere. They punted it to Jackson. Jackson had a big opportunity. That was a moment. I mean, that was a win the game kind of moment, right? Jackson gets the ball with a little over a minute, and we know that's enough time for Jackson, right? They got it, and they had decent starting field position. They drove down the field with relative ease, but then I believe just penalties just kind of backed them up, and they were unable to score. Ended on, I guess, turnover on downs. They were at the 40. They decided not to try to do anything crazy and just kind of like let Parsons kneel it out. And that was tough, right? Because Jackson was going to get the ball to start the second half, and so they think, hey, we can go down and score and make it a 2-possession game. But I mean, honestly, if they could have scored there, made it a 2-possession game, then come back and then make it a 3-possession game in a game that was this, the drives were this long. I mean, 3 possessions was going to be huge, right? Because, I mean, at that point, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 8 total drives for both teams in the first half. So this was a very methodical football game. And, Lee Summit was not a fast-moving team whatsoever. So a 3-possession lead there would have done wonders. Jackson unable to do so. They get the ball back to start the second half, unable to really do much. They end up punting. Shout out to Grant Brown, also, just like an underrated part of the postseason for the Indians, and mainly, in the CBC game and this one, really good job punting. I mean, he's a tight end. He's a good tight end, good baseball player. But he does a good job in receiving, does a good job blocking out on the edge at tight end. But this playoff run, he did a great job punting. People didn't really come after him and gave him time to kind of sit back there and just hit big, long, booming punts. And he did great. The punt he had to start the second half went all the way down to the 13-yard line, took a huge bounce in the Indians' favor. And then Lee Summit backed up. They were forced to punt. And the Indians immediately do get that 2-score lead, right? Jalen Hampton takes it from midfield to the house. But, he got the 49-yard touchdown run, gave the Indians 28-14 lead. But up to that point, so everything, it was not easy for the Indians. Jalen Hampton, for example, I said in the start he had 99 yards rushing, 20 carries. That's 5 yards a carry. But 49, like I just said, of those 99 were on one run. So you take away that one on every other carry, he averaged 2.5 yards a carry. He just was bottled up. I mean, they made an asserted effort. I mean, they were just big, strong, physical at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Jackson really struggled to run. There was not a lot of room. Jalen would try to even bounce things outside. They were able to string it out, get tackles, and runs that even against CBC, teams like that, I think we kind of learned that CBC's defense kind of was Swiss cheese at times. But, some of these runs where he'd bounce outside against every other team would be 5, 6, 8, 9, 12-yard runs. This game, they were going for 0, 1, or 2. Like, there was not a lot of running room out wide. Those kids, those linebackers, safeties, they were playing sideline to sideline. They were unbelievable all ball game. He did break the one, great blocking out there on the edge as well, and just opened up a hole, and he used the speed at the next level to burn them. But most of the ball game was very, very tough. Like I said, outside of the one long touchdown run, he averaged 2.5 yards a carry. And then even, Jackson scored 21 in the first half, and Drew Parsons was making awesome plays a lot of times where he's scrambling, he's running around in the backfield for 5, 8, 10 seconds and then throwing it downfield and finding, Jory Toma coming free or whoever. And, that was really cool. That was really fun, right? Watching him do Johnny Manziel, Michael Vick things in the backfield the whole time. But but it was necessary, which is the scary part, right? He was hey, drop back, boom, there's my guy, hit him, boom, boom. The quick, easy throws simply just were not there in this ball game, which is once again a credit to Lee Summit. And I mean, their pass rush got into the backfield a lot of times, and also their coverage on the back end was really, really good and took away a lot of the quick stuff that we wanted to do. And so that made it difficult. And like I said, the first half, it was a lot of making magic happen for Drew. And unfortunately, that just wasn't there a lot of times in the second half. The pass rush started getting to him. I have to imagine he was probably getting a little bit worn down, running around for his life repeatedly and trying to scramble and make things happen. Guys were just not able to get open as much in the second half. They didn't lose people wide open all over the field like they might have a few times in the first half. And so that's kind of where the issues started to arise for the Indians. And then after the Indians go up 2 scores, it was like, hey, this 2 scores might be insurmountable in this game that's, all these drives are super elongated. But Lee Summit was kind of given a big gift there. I don't know if the execution was bad or what exactly went on, but Jackson and Lee Summit had both kind of been experimenting all game on where they wanted to kick the ball. Both teams have really, really dangerous returners. The Hatfields, twin brothers, Peyton and Preston, were back deep for Lee Summit. Memphis Maddox, Blaine Reagan for the Indians. I mean, Maddox had good returns in this one, and, the Hatfields are electric. And so, both teams were trying to keep it away from those guys. And after going up 2 scores, the Indians attempted like a short, high kickoff, just trying to pin them at, make a guy call a fair catch or whatever. Somebody just wasn't comfortable running with the ball. But, they kicked it high and short, and, kid just grabbed it on the run. I think it might have been the Drew Benassi kid. I could be wrong. But he grabbed it and just took off straight ahead, got out to midfield. And having that short of a field immediately on an offense that was this efficient was not great. And then on, I believe, the very next play, Jackson got called for a 15-yard penalty at the end of a run. So that was, we gave him the 50-yard line, and then one play was 20, 25 yards. And so immediately, 10 seconds after Jackson goes up by 2 scores, Lee Summit has it like in the red zone. So they scored very, very quickly, made it 28-21. Jackson gets a drive down the field, and then once again, kind of the magic just ran out and unable to get into the end zone. That was a huge turning point. He felt like the Indians took the momentum for a second and then immediately gave it back whenever Lee Summit scored quick. And then Jackson gets a drive. It's like, oh, are they going to push it back out to 2 scores? This would be huge. And then, no, I believe it was a 4th and 9. Parsons got sacked and gave it back to Lee Summit. Indians got down to the 15-yard line of Lee Summit. And this was kind of a wonky moment and another big turning point in the ballgame as a whole. Jackson was not able to get out of the third quarter. And this is a weird way of putting it, but Jackson had the ball like in the red zone, maybe first down, and they just needed one snap to end the third quarter. Okay, there was like 35 seconds on the game clock and 20 something on the play clock. They snap it. I believe they gave it to Jalen Hampton. Jalen Hampton tried to get out wide, could not. Got the run strung out, and they got him out of bounds. So the clock stops. So if he stays in bounds there, they run out the third quarter, and we go to the fourth. And Jackson runs, another couple minutes off the clock potentially. But anyway, so they do that. He gets pushed out of bounds. Clock stops with 15 seconds or something. They try to set up a throwback screen that was just overthrown. That stops the clock with whatever, like single digits at that point. And then I believe that then brought up 4th down. Jackson goes for it. Parsons gets sacked. And there's still 0.2 seconds on the clock. Jackson ran 3 plays in about 15 seconds. And Lee Summit got the ball and got to run a play before the fourth quarter even started. And that was just a weird, moment in time where, every second of this game was going to be important. And Jackson, kind of trying to play the the numbers game and do the math and possessions, things like that. And, they made an asserted effort to run the ball. They only threw it, I think, 6 times in the second half. So they were trying to kind of burn that clock, you could tell. And so a moment like that where, you are just one snap away from getting out of the quarter and you could potentially burn off at least a couple more minutes to start the fourth. They were unable to and gave Lee Summit the ball back and all the momentum down a score. And Lee Summit took that momentum, drove down the field, get 4th and 2 at the 3-yard line, I believe. They punch in touchdown. And another big moment at the time, I thought, it was 28-27. They go to kick the extra point. Blaine Reagan comes off the edge. Phenomenal play. Kid plays, every snap, it feels like, in the ball game. Yeah, he blocked the extra point. So the Indians had a 1-point lead, and it was like, hey, this is their chance to maybe put it away. I think they got it back with 7-something on the clock. Cody and I in the booth were talking about it, a week ago. They burned off 5.5 minutes on the clock against CBC. Can they do the same, or can they drive down, burn 5 minutes and score, kind of put the game away? As many of you know now, unable to do so. They started their drive at their own 10 after maybe a little bit of an issue on the kickoff. Ball was kicked over, I think, Memphis Maddox's head, and it looked like it was going to go into the end zone, but the kicker just put like Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, whoever, backspin on the ball, and it just died at the 2-yard line. So he had to go retreat, pick it up, and try to get some yardage. He got, tackled at the 10-yard line. So started in a tough spot. Jackson gets to 4th down, 4th and 1. I think it was 3rd and 8 or so, and they went kind of like a delayed draw to Hampton. Got stopped just short, made it 4th and 1. And I don't disagree with the call at the end of the day. They went for it. They went under center for Parsons and fumbled the snap. I don't know who, whatever. I don't know who you want to blame it on. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. But snap got fumbled. I think he fell on it. But so Lee Summit took over. There was turnover on downs. And that was huge. Like I said, I don't disagree with the call. I mean, it's 4th and 1. You're a big, strong, athletic team. They had gone under center earlier in the game and were able to pick up a yard or two, whatever they needed. And so, I liked it. It was aggressive. And, they put the ball, somebody they trusted. It just didn't work out. They just didn't execute, right? And, like I said, I don't disagree with the call. In the moment, I thought it was the right call, and I still agree with that, even knowing in hindsight how the game worked out. Also in that moment, on top of just being aggressive and saying, hey, we pick up this first down, we might be able to end the ball game. If we're being honest, Lee Summit was kind of unstoppable at that point. So it felt like inevitable that they were going to go down and score. And in this, you kind of do the math once again, like, hey, they're going to go down and score on us, probably. Might as well, if we're going to give them the ball at the 20-yard line, they'll at least score quickly and give us time to go back down and tie it up, or maybe go for 2 to go for the win. As opposed to punting it, and then they take 5.5 minutes off the clock, and we're stuck there with no time left, trying to go down and tie it. So overall, every aspect I liked the call. I thought it was the right call. It just didn't work, and it's kind of just how it goes sometimes, right? But Lee Summit did score. I think they got it at the 20, if I remember, or 20-something. They scored. There was still 3 minutes on the clock. They went up 35-28. They've got the 2-point conversion. And, there was a second there where it was like, once again, I had full confidence. Jackson is super talented. The offense is great. Parsons and all of his weapons are awesome. And Memphis Maddox got it started. He returned it to the 40-yard line. But then once again, just kind of, there's just nothing there for the Indians. I don't know if there was, maybe, I don't know if, the short throws might have been there. Did whatever. I don't know what accounted for it. Was it just tough to make the throws? Were they in the passing lanes? Was it, did you trust the ability to throw through the wind? It was 40 miles an hour. That was something that Cody and I got to watch in the press box. Was at halftime. They were warming up, the quarterbacks were, and if you put any air under a pass whatsoever, it would go from like the yard line that you threw it at. It would fly as far as like 7 yards to the left or right, whichever direction you were throwing the ball. So I mean, putting the ball in the air was risky every time late in that ball game. And yeah, Jackson was just unable to really go anywhere. They got it to the 40, and then I think they had a penalty. Might even been a delay of game, but they got backed up and ended up being 4th and 15. And they completed a pass over the middle to Jory Toma, and just unfortunate, it went for 14 yards, and he needed 15, right? So brutal way to end the game, really, really tough way to end the season there in the moment. And then, Lee Summit ran out the clock there. But it was a brutal way to go out. Obviously, it stinks to lose that way. You go in, you beat the number 1 team in state the week before, and then, the roles kind of get reversed in a way, right? A lot of people were picking you to win, and you're kind of the favorite, but you got to go on the road, make the long road trip to a hostile environment, to a team trying to do something that they haven't ever been able to do or haven't been able to do in a long time. And, Lee Summit, they were the ones who jumped up and bit you this week. So it was unfortunate. But it was interesting. I mean, Lee Summit was just a good team. They were big, strong, physical up front. Everybody who ran the ball was super strong runners. I mean, Preston Hatfield, Karsten Fine, Peyton Hatfield. That was definitively the best backfield of kids that I've seen Jackson play against this, calling the games these last 3 years. Now, I think, back in the Vianney days of Kyron Williams, Tion Harris, or whatever his name is, those guys were unbelievable. But this group was phenomenal. Hatfield, Fine. Fine was 6'2", 200 and something pounds. Hatfield, not very big kid, 5'9", 170. But, all these kids ran so hard. Their offensive line on every single play got behind them and pushed them. So if a run was going to be a 1-yard run, it ended up being a 4-yard run almost every single time. It was just a dominant performance. In the run game, I was going to pull up Cole Lee of SEMO Ball, put some stats out, just talking about how awesome, Lee Summit was. Just giving them their props. Preston Hatfield, the kid who, did the majority of the damage, he had 48 carries. 48. He ran the ball 48 times for 251 yards, 4 touchdowns, including the game winner. And then not counting kneeling down at the end of the ball game, Lee Summit ran the ball 61 times, and 58 of them went for positive yardage. 58 of their 61 runs got across the line of scrimmage. 2 of them went for 0 yards, and 1 went for -1. They carried 61 times for 5 yards a carry. It was just physically dominant. Just nothing you can do. It was just an unbelievable performance, lights out performance by Lee Summit. And yeah, I was impressed. Like I said, Hatfield's one of the best individual athletes I've seen Jackson play against. One of the best rushing performances I've ever seen. So it's a tough way to go out. Jackson's going to lose a lot of kids that are very important to the program. It's something I'd kind of looked into with each team as their season came to a close. And, Jackson's no exception. They bring a lot back that is, very exciting to look forward to for the future. But, all you got to do is look at the very top names that they're losing. Drew Parsons at quarterback obviously stands out. He's been unbelievable. 2-year starter, has led Jackson to, he stepped in as a sophomore in the district semifinals and, won his first start ever, was a district championship game, played in the quarterfinals where Jackson lost by 2 scores to CBC. The next year, as the guy leads Jackson from 0-3 to the state quarterfinals, they lose by 10 on the road to Kirkwood. And then this year, steps up his game to a whole new level, was awesome throughout the entire season, took care of the ball, ran it well when asked to, made all the throws, won the Carr Trophy as the best player in Southeast Missouri, and, led them to the Class 6 semifinals for the first time ever. So that was a huge moment, the first semifinal since 2021, like I mentioned before. Beat CBC, the number 1 team in state, had an awesome run to the playoffs. And now he's going to go play baseball as a SEMO. So very, very cool. Also, as far as high-level prospects go, there's none bigger than Bryson Wessel Wessel played both sides of the ball throughout his career at Jackson. He's been the left tackle for the last few years. And last year, I mean, he changed Jackson's season, in my opinion, with the commitment to move to defensive line as well. Him and a couple other guys moving over there changed the Indians' defense after the first few weeks of the season. And he's going to Mizzou. I think they said he's going to play interior offensive line, maybe center, like Connor Tollison. And so it's super exciting. He won the best O-lineman in the CMO Conference Award. Obviously, makes perfect sense. And yeah, he's just an elite athlete. I don't know if he's going to be in school all season long, so we'll see him if he is in the wrestling mat, trying to get back to state, and also potentially in track and field, looking to get back to state and throwing as well. But yeah, a lot of other names. Dawson Bortner's one. Dawson Bortner was out this ball game as well, so that was a big loss, losing their starting middle linebacker to a team that wants to, ran the ball 61 times. Probably a very, very big loss if you think about it. They're losing a couple other linebackers as well. Boyd Langford, 3-year player in varsity. Brett Finley, very good outside linebacker. Losing a couple of interior offensive linemen, Clayton Rook, Grady Boehner, Camden Brockmeyer out wide, Aiden Sander at safety. Losing a lot of bodies, losing a lot of guys. But, they bring a lot back. Pretty positive, as you should be. I mean, Jackson hasn't had a below 500 season in like 15 years. So, there's no reason to obviously be down on them for what they lose. Let's see here. Editor's note, 2011, their last below 500 season. So, they don't necessarily have to rebuild. A lot of times they can reload with the talent they have, and they bring back a lot. I think in the postgame, Cody said they bring back 7 starters on offense, 7 starters on defense. So this team is going to be at the very top of Southeast Missouri once again next season and looking to make another playoff run. So I'm excited to see how things evolve, who steps up in Drew Parsons' absence, because they did have an injury late in the year for Tyler Fisher, their starting corner, who was also the backup quarterback and kind of the projected future starter at quarterback. He had a knee injury. That's going to put him out. Who knows how long, like deep into fall football probably. And so, you might be seeing Max Tebow in there at quarterback maybe early. I don't know. We'll see. No idea. But you bring back, all your receiving weapons with the exception of Brockmeyer, Jory Toma, Evan Turley out wide, Grant Brown at tight end. So they bring back a lot of weapons. Obviously, Jalen Hampton's poised for his 4th year as a starting running back for the Indians. Memphis Maddox behind him, Gage Parker behind him. Those guys were awesome in the times they got carries. Defensively, Blaine and Brock Ray going to be back. Blaine is just truly one of the best individual athletes in the entire state of Missouri. Wherever you put him, he makes plays. So there's a lot of guys coming back. Joe Moore at linebacker was huge this season. So I think Lucas Cox at linebacker will be back. Cameron Caldwell, Keegan Bregman, Zayden Johnson, all back on the D-line. So there's a lot back. There's a lot of important pieces back for them for sure. Braden Harris, who's right tackle, I assume he's going to slide over to the left side. We'll see exactly what they decide to do. But the Indians bring back a lot. And, I'm not down on them whatsoever going into next year. And, after making this 6-hour drive home, I was no longer, disappointed. I got that out of the way it ended. It was a great season. I mean, look at what they did, man. They annihilated everybody in the CMO Conference again, but they beat some awesome teams. They beat Cardinal Ritter. They beat Ballard High School out of Louisville. They went to Edwardsville and exercised that demon, beat them for the first time. They played 3 years in a row at Edwardsville, and they beat Edwardsville. And then, like I said, took care of business everywhere else. They went to Festus, who just lost in the state semifinals, beat them by 41 at their place, destroyed everybody in their district tournament, and then knocked off CBC, kind of got over that hump, got to the semifinals. And it just, it stinks losing. You felt like Jackson was good enough to be in that state championship game next week against Nixa, but it just wasn't to be. And, it's how the cookie crumbles sometimes, but I am very positive. The season was phenomenal. And, the coaches, I hope they're all back next season. Really, really good group of guys. I like them. And, like I said, all the players that are eligible to come back. I hope they do. And I hope, young guys step up. I'm excited to see what they have. So there's a lot of talented players. I've seen a lot of talented players in the back ends of those games, when Jackson's blowing people out. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how those kids progress. Some of the young guys and then, kids stepping up to be seniors, things like that. So very excited about that. But, yeah, football, done. All the way done now, finally. I will. There is nobody left in Southeast Missouri at all. Hayti was playing. They got smoked by Putnam County. So just for fun, if you care, I will run through all the state championship matchups. In Class 1, Putnam County is playing Tipton. Putnam County way up north. Tipton around Columbia, I believe. St. Pius out of Festus is in the state title game in Class 2 against Blair Oaks. Blair Oaks is a machine. I would lean heavily toward Blair Oaks in that one. In Class 3, it is Lift for Life against Seneca. Two, very contrasting styles of teams. Lift for Life, tons of athletes, high-flying offense. Seneca over on the border of Oklahoma. Going to be interesting. I would lean Seneca to get over the hump and win a state title there, but we shall see. Class 4, Kearney and Hannibal, two dominant teams. Hannibal and Kearney both blew out their opponents in the semifinals. I'd lean Kearney. It's because they're kind of rolling as a program at the moment. Class 5, Platte County and Carthage, both teams out west. I guess I'm going to lean on Platte County, two teams that the Indians faced in back-to-back years in Class 5 state title games, but I'll lean Platte County. They've got the superstar quarterback Rocco Marriott. And then Class 6, Lee Summit and Nixa. Lee Summit, impressed me infinitely, but I'm going to lean toward Nixa. Both these teams looking to win their first state title, so I'll give the nod to Nixa in that one and all their superstar talent that they have. But like I said, no more football. Excuse me. We're on to basketball. We're on to winter sports, wrestling, girls swimming. So that is where we'll jump to. There was basketball this past week. There was a game early in the week, last week. Cape Central knocked off Saxony over at Saxony. Good ball game, low-scoring game. Cape won that 49-46. Saxony, unsurprisingly, was led by Kinsey Keys, 19 points. Kinsey's going to be one of the very best players in the SEMO Conference this year. The question is just how much can the rest of the team around her take a step forward this season. I'll be watching them closely. I'm excited to see what they do. They're a young, fun team, so I have my eye on them for sure. And then over at Cape, Jamie Dawson-Ide, as you expect, 16 points. So at this point, incredible multi-sport athlete. Went to state and cross country. I'm probably going to go to state this year in track and field. And probably going to lead the basketball team in points. So Jamie Dawson-Ide had 16, and then Caden Kern had 9 points. Caden's another one I'm excited to see. Only a freshman, had a really good volleyball season. For those that don't know me, I've said it a few times in the past. I worked at the Sportsplex from the time it opened until my daughter was born in December of 2023. So I probably stopped working there, I believe, November 2023. So, all these young kids, boys and girls, playing basketball and soccer, volleyball. I've seen all these kids since they were like 5 years old playing sports at the Sportsplex. So, Kinsey's one of those. Caden Kern is one of those. Caden was always a really, really good athlete, one of the best at Cape year in and year out. So I'm excited to see some of these young athletes take the next step. So, it's pretty much does it this past week. This week, got a lot more action as, I'm peek behind the curtain here. I'm recording this Monday evening, and some inclement weather here early in the week has canceled or postponed a lot of ball games here early on. I believe, Cape's game that was supposed to be on Monday got moved to Tuesday against Fox. The SEMO Conference girls tournament over at Poplar Bluff got pushed. The Duke Herbert tournament that Saxony boys are playing in Crystal City has gotten pushed back. So we'll see how all that kind of works itself out. The schedule, though, or the games that are being played this week, outside of our region, there's a lot of basketball tournaments going on, and within our teams in our region, Woodland's hosting a tournament. Oran has a tournament. Bernie has a boys tournament. So there's a lot of good ball going on. Like I mentioned, and then you've got the teams who are in our coverage area here in Cape County. Like I said, Saxony, they are the 4 seed in the Duke Herbert tournament up there at Crystal City. They'll be taking on Park Hill Central. It's interesting. Park Hill Central, I guess, down a little bit from where you traditionally expect them to be. I mean, a couple years ago, they were state title contenders. The Saxony, I like Saxony this year. I guess, spoiler alert, I'm going to have an interview put out with Coach Scott coming up in the near future. And he seems to be high on the team. He thinks they're going to take a step forward. I think so as well. I watched him over at the Cape Jamboree a couple weeks ago now, and they looked good. They looked solid. They had a kid move here from, I think, Wisconsin who looks like a good scorer. So they're not very big. That's going to hurt them. But, I think they have good guards. They're going to play hard. They're going to defend. And so I'm optimistic, and I hope to see them keep, take an uptick and start projecting forward a little bit here with, Coach Scott, second year there, Coach Abernathy and company. So excited to see Saxony, excited to see the future there. And then Cape Central is up at the Fountain City Classic in DeSoto, out there in the woods. Go check it out if you feel like it. Sykeson's playing in it as well. Cape's schedule is now Tuesday. They're playing Fox. By the time this is out, you'll probably know the outcome of that one. I expect Cape to win. They play Fort Zumwalt West, who I believe knocked them off at DeSoto last year. So that'd be an interesting rematch. And then on Saturday, they will play again against, there's 2 pools of 3 teams, and whoever comes in first in each pool will play each other, second play each other, etc. So we'll see who Cape plays on Saturday, but the game, that championship day or whatever, is projected to be Saturday at this time. The Indians, Jackson boys, that is, they are playing in what was called the Farmington Tournament. It's not really a tournament. It's just games at Farmington. But Jackson on Tuesday is playing Rockwood Summit. It'll be a tough matchup. The one person or the couple people who benefited from Jackson losing in football is the Jackson boys basketball team. But obviously they want to see them win and win a state title and all that, but yada, yada. So, guys like Jory Toma, Blaine Reagan, Brock Reagan, D'Antoine Johnson, all these kids will get back into the system in basketball now for the Indians. I don't know if they'll be playing this week up at Farmington. It might not. If they don't, it's going to be a struggle for the Indians for sure. Jory Toma is obviously expected to be a huge part of the team. He's a kid that you wouldn't surprise me if he's the leading scorer. I don't know what Brock Reagan's going to bring. He didn't play last season. And so I'm excited to see, what level he's at and, how he looks out there. I know he's a great athlete, super quick, athletic kid. And then Blaine Reagan, a kid I'm really excited about in basketball. I think by the end of the year, he could be, a starter and really, really disruptive defender. He's a great athlete. He gets downhill, great first step. He's a freak athlete, right? He can windmill dunk, and he's like, whatever you want to say you are, 5'10", 5'11", 5'9", somewhere between 5'9" and 6 foot. So, he's a freak athlete. So I'm excited to see kind of what he can do, how his game develops, if he can add a jump shot, things like that. But Jackson this week, they play Rockwood Summit Tuesday. Thursday, they play St. Pius the 10th from Festus. And then Friday, they play Farmington at Farmington, which will be a tough test. Farmington's good. They bring back some kids that were a little bit down the rotation from last year. They lose their top 2 players, Shoppert and Roth from last year, who were, 20-point-a-game scorers, college basketball players now. But they bring back a lot of kids I like. Tatum Tinsley, really good football player, the quarterback for their team this past year. The Shoppert kid had a younger brother who I like. And there's a lot of other kids who I'm learning about. But they've got a really, really good team. They looked really good over the summer when I saw them. So that is kind of the slate for this week. Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. But, yeah, I'm excited to get basketball going on. Even as a Jacksonian, basketball is probably my favorite sport, my favorite time of year. I'm sorry to admit that out loud. I apologize. That just is the case, and that's how it kind of goes for me. Notre Dame, the Bulldogs, will be hosting St. Mary's Southside Thursday the 4th as well. So that's a good ball game. If you're in the area, don't want to go travel to watch anybody else play, I get it. Go check out that ball game. St. Mary's is always a very, very good team. They put on a show down at the Riverbend the other day. So go check that out. Notre Dame has a fun young core. I don't know if we're going to have a full-on basketball preview or not. I've interviewed some coaches, things like that, but I'm really excited about what Notre Dame can be. They graduate, 10 seniors from last year. It's a huge, huge deal, obviously, but I like a lot of these young guys, only 2 seniors on the roster, a good amount of juniors, a lot of sophomores, and a lot of these sophomores I like where they project in the future. And so I'm positive. I'm positive on Notre Dame. I don't know if it's going to translate always into successful, more wins, things like that, but I do like the direction they're going to go in, and like I said, I'm optimistic. I think they can put together a good season and maybe a good future for the Bulldogs as well. Moving over to girls basketball, I guess I'll also mention the Crystal City tournament for Saxony. Look a step deeper at that. I mentioned they're the 4 seed playing Park Hills Central, so they're going to play, depending on winning and losing, they'll be playing either Jefferson, who they lost in a really, really close game, I remember last year at Jefferson, or they'll be playing Crystal City. So could be playing the home team, could be playing a really good Jefferson team. We shall see. That semifinal is on the winner and losing side is scheduled for Wednesday. We'll see if that holds or how things kind of shake up with the inclement weather going on up north of here. Also in that tournament, St. Clair and Grandview, and then St. Vincent and Herculaneum. So some more somewhat local squads in there. See how they look, St. Vincent, things like that. So it'll be a good tournament for Saxony, kind of see where they stack up to some teams more in their weight class, kind of in their classification too as well. So be on the lookout for those. And just like I said, be on the lookout for how games get rescheduled. And that also goes for girls basketball. SEMO Conference is supposed to start Monday. Saxony was supposed to be playing New Madrid. Notre Dame is supposed to be playing Dexter. That's getting pushed back. I mean, I guess to Tuesday is kind of what it says. So I don't know what that means, though, for the New Madrid Saxony game, because that is a play-in. They're 8-9 because it's stupid. We have 9 teams in the SEMO Conference tournament. Somebody get another team or kick somebody out. But get somebody else in the tournament, in the boys and the girls side. Drives me crazy. Trying to figure out how to do a 9-team tournament. Drives me crazy. Regardless. So what, I don't know what that means for Saxony New Madrid. Do they have to play a doubleheader? Having to play a doubleheader with the second game being Jackson. It's brutal. So we'll see how that goes. The tournament there, though, like I already began alluding to, the 8-9 kind of play-in is New Madrid and Saxony. Saxony is a 9 seed. They're a good 9 seed. So we'll see how that goes. They play New Madrid. You'll probably know how these first-round games go by the time you're watching this. But the winner of that will be playing Jackson. You also have 4 seed is Bluff playing the 5 seed Cape. That's scheduled for Tuesday. Good, interesting matchup. Poplar Bluff has been a little bit down. I'm surprised Cape is all the way down at the 5 seed. I think they could win that first-round matchup against Poplar Bluff, get into the semifinals. The 2 is Notre Dame. The 7 is Dexter. And then Kennett and Sykeston is the 3 versus 6 game. So after that, you could have Jackson. You could have a Jackson Cape Central semifinal that's scheduled. The winner side semifinal is scheduled for Thursday. The consolation semifinal is scheduled for Wednesday, and then the final day of the tournament is Friday, starting at 5:30 is the consolation championship. The third place game is at 7, and Friday 8:30 p.m. is the championship. All that's at Poplar Bluff. A little bit of a drive out there. I don't know if anybody's going to be streaming the games. I hope they do, but be on the lookout for that. So keep up with that. It should be a good tournament. I mean, it's Jackson's to lose if I'm being totally transparent. The Indians won every game in this tournament by 30 plus last season. I don't expect too much of a deviation from that this year, but yeah, it'd be interesting. See how some of these teams match up against each other and see how some teams look early in the year. Cape getting tested, Poplar Bluff, and maybe Jackson. Notre Dame, I mean, they lose quite a bit of production from last year, right? They lose Wagner and Barnett in the post, Skylar Kraft, I believe, as well. I'm trying to remember all who's back. I mean, Mia Panton, I know, is back. Very, very good player. So it's going to be a test for them. And, I mean, you look at their schedule, they're playing some really, really tough games this season. as a whole, but Coach Beller does a great job over there. So I am, I'm optimistic, but they will have, an uphill climb. You look at their roster, it's kind of a weird collection, right? They have 2 seniors, and they have 3 juniors, no sophomores. Everybody else on the roster on the Misha website is a freshman. So going to be a young group. But like I said, I'm optimistic. I mean, Notre Dame should never be taking huge drops in talent, I would say, in general. So I am certainly optimistic, and I think they can, put together a pretty good year here. But it's going to be a learning experience, going to have some growing pains at times with a lot of young girls out there having to contribute. And they're in, a pretty tough Class 5 District 1 as well once you get later into the postseason. But outside of that, like I said, girls SEMO Conference Tournament going to be going on all week. Cape, Jackson, Notre Dame, Saxony. That will take up all this week. A lot of wrestling going on. Starting on the boys' side, Tuesday, you've got so Notre Dame and Saxony co-oping together, boys and girls wrestling. So there's that. And I believe they're co-oping in swimming as well on the girls' side. So see a lot of Notre Dame and Saxony flavor there together. On Tuesday, Notre Dame with Saxony is wrestling Kennett on the boys' side. Wednesday, Cape is at North County. Thursday, Notre Dame and Saxony are taking on. Oh, I believe I put that in the wrong place. And then so Saturday, Notre Dame is hosting their Notre Dame Invitational. Cape Central will be up at the Fort Zumwalt North Invitational, and then Jackson will be up in St. Charles at the Francis Howell North Invitational. Girls wrestling, a lot of the same. Notre Dame Saxony girls are going to be taking on Kennett and New Madrid in a tri-match. Cape is at North County Wednesday on the girls' side as well, and then Friday, the girls at Notre Dame will be in that invitational, and then Cape girls will be at the Fort Zumwalt North Invitational as well. And then girls swimming, Jackson is taking on Notre Dame with Saxony and girls swimming Thursday, and then Saturday, Cape and Notre Dame with Saxony is going to be at Ladue for the Ladue Invitational. So quite a bit going on this week. So once again, keep your eye on the weather. I don't know how that's going to shake out exactly. I don't think there's really going to be much damage done. When I walked in to record, it was kind of sleeting a little bit. So I don't know. I'm not too concerned. Up north might be a little bit trickier for any teams that are playing. Like I said, Cape and Sykeston are playing at DeSoto. Keep your eyes on that. Jackson at Farmington. I don't know how bad it's going to be at Farmington, but some of their teams making trips south. We'll see how that all works out. But, like I said, football ending, always disappointing, and, sad to see it go. But I'm excited for basketball. I'm in the same role in basketball. I'll be doing radio, myself and Cody Hinkebine for Jackson 104.7 The Bridge. If you want to check that out. I was on a basketball preview of the whole area with Rusty Hendricks over on SEMO ESPN. Shout out to Rusty. Go check that out. Me and Cole Lee of SEMO Ball were on there. Got to kind of do a little quick thoughts on each team, talk to different coaches. Coach Long of Bernie, Josh Carball from Eagle Ridge, Coach Frazier from Cape, Coach Fernetti, Puxico. So that was neat, getting to talk to different people, talk about different schools, and I usually do here, just Cape Jackson region. So yeah, go check that out. Should be, I believe it's in podcast form, but go to his, Facebook page or website there, SEMO ESPN, check out that. And yeah, it's exciting. Basketball's really, really fun time. And this area really, really loves basketball. And there's a lot coming up. The girls SEMO conference tournament's going on. A week from now, the boys SEMO conference tournament will get started down in Sykeston. You want to take a early peek at that. Cape is the 1 seed there. Jackson's the 3 seed. Notre Dame is the 7 seed. So a lot to look forward to. Cape will be the 1 seed taking on either Kennett or New Madrid. Then they, if they win that, they're going to be playing a tough game in the semifinals against either Dexter or Charleston. I'm high on both those teams this year. Sykeston is going to be hosting Notre Dame in that first round. It's going to be an uphill battle for Notre Dame for sure. Sykeston loses a lot, but they bring back a lot of talent that I really like. And then Jackson will be taking on Poplar Bluff. I thought it could be a tough matchup. regardless. I thought it was going to be a very tough matchup with potentially, if Jackson was in the state title game of football, I would doubt that Jory Toma, Blaine Reagan, Brock Reagan will be playing, but those guys will be back. They'll have practice, under their belt, maybe. I mean, they have this whole Notre Dame or Farmington thing, so they'll get some run maybe at Farmington, maybe get a practice in before jumping into the SEMO Conference tournament. But we'll see. We'll see how the podcast recording schedule goes as well with the SEMO Conference tournament going on. I will be, like I said, on the call Monday, December 8th. Hopefully Thursday, the 11th, and then Friday, the 12th. So we'll work it in there somewhere. So I'll be updating you guys as that goes on. And yeah, check out our social media pages. I'll be sharing, updates if games get postponed or canceled or whatever. And I'll be sharing scores, things like that, player highlights for football. Kids will start, Jackson kids will start tweeting their huddle highlights. I'll always be retweeting those, things like that. So check out social media. Like I said, share all those things over there to just keep supporting all the kids in the area. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Why I do all this, to get more eyes and ears on these kids that are putting in all the hard work, and the coaches that are putting in a lot of hard work, time away from their family, things like that as well. So as always, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe wherever you watch or listen. Go check out YouTube. Like I said, we might be doing maybe some winter sports collaboration over there. Might be jumping into some live streaming over there as well. Get me to 50. Get me to 50 subs. That's all we need. 50 the mark to get into live streaming over there. So, yeah. Thank you, as always, once again. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay warm. Stay inside. Watch basketball. It's good for you. And, yeah, we will be back with a lot more winter sports coming up real soon. Thank you all. Have a good one.